I just want to make the citizenry aware that the $1.825 million, what percentage increase that represents over?
3%.
Yeah, it's approximately 3% increase from last year. The Advisory Budget Committee had been hoping for a budget decrease, or at least a steady budget.
All right. That being said, any discussion from the public on Article 1? Or, sorry, Article 2?
Hi, Sloan Jarrell. There's just an error in the libraries. I think it should be down $2,000, but I just want to go over it with Linda one more time to make sure that we have our numbers 100% correct.
It was, sorry, Sloan, which line was it?
Eversource.
Oh,
Okay, so page 10 of the drawdown under the library section for Eversource. That got dropped down to 1,500, Sloan?
I think it got dropped down to 2,000.
2,000, I'm sorry. So it says 3,500 and it should be 2,000. Which lowers the bottom line. Do you have a total on the bottom line, what it should be?
Yes. 117,212.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussions on Article 2?
I guess that includes our executive line.
Yep.
So I'll just repeat a proposal that I made in the select board meeting, I think 2 meetings ago. We're increasing our board to 5. The current selectman's stipend is $7,000 a year. Other towns, Conway's $4,000, Tamworth is $3,000. This
Okay, thank you. Because it's still more than other local towns, and I don't think it's an unreasonable cut to make.
Good evening, Donna Vayu. To Selectman Gray's point, I took the stipends of 6 towns, abutting towns, and the average pay is $3,916. And put a little more clarification to that. Albany is $6,000. Conway is 4, Eaton is 2,700, Tamworth is 3,000, Sandwich is 1,800, and so I took an average, and the average comes out to be 3,916. And with all the budget cuts, I would hope maybe that could be revisited.
Just curious, Donna, was there any consideration as to whether or not those towns use a town manager as opposed to an administrator?
Excuse me?
Was there any consideration as to whether or not those towns use a manager as opposed to an administrator? Because it makes a big difference.
The only town that has an administrator is Conway.
Correct, but then you consider Eaton and Sandwich, and their populations are significantly lower, and their budgets are significantly lower, which means the workload's significantly lower. Just making the point. Any other questions or comments before we take a vote on Article 2?
Steve Bartlett. Joy, I'm confused. You propose that and are suggesting to reduce it. This budget does not reflect that, or does?
This budget does not reflect a proposed $10,000 cut.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
Cheryl Brooks, so that $10,000 that you're proposing, is that to pay someone to come in and they will only be paid $10,000 to assist the town administrator and the zoning, Bob, whatever he does?
So there is an addition to the budget of $12,000 for an administrative assistant floater to support the town administrator, to support land use assistant, admin assistant, to support to support code enforcement. So it would be a trade-off.
So it would be, so you're saying in addition to the 12,000, it would be 22,000 for how many hours, I guess, per week? Because you just said there was already 12,000 in the budget for that?
There is an addition to this year's budget of $12,000 for a part-time office support person in town hall.
Right. But you just said you're trying to cut $10,000 from the selectmen's pay to add to that?
No, just to cut 10,000.
Okay.
Seeing no one else coming up to the microphone, I would entertain a motion to recommend this article.
Second.
You making the motion? I didn't make it.
Oh, you make it. I'll make a motion we accept. Article 2, just the way it is. Sorry.
I'm sorry, Mr. Selectman, could you have the people speak louder at the table? I can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
It is now. Should be good.
Okay, can you hear me now? All right, great. I make a motion to accept Article 2 as written at $1.825, $526.
Sorry, that's going to change,
Oh,
actually, because we got to take that money out.
we need to take out, hold on one second.
Hold on,
John.
we got to do a math.
We need to remove,
2,000.
is it an even 2,000?
It was 1,500.
1,500? All right, 1,824,000.
I'm going to make a new motion.
Oh, hold
Sorry.
on. Go ahead, Sherry.
For clarification, sorry, Joy, can you clarify again? So you're proposing to cut 10,000. You just want to cut the pay across the board? Or do you want to cut the 10,000 and use it elsewhere?
Just cut the 10,000 right out of the budget.
Okay. Well, that's
just-
honorable. Okay, that makes sense. I just wanted to clarify.
Yep, thank you.
Could I say something? Yeah, just again for additional clarification, the additional individual for administrative support to the town hall folks is already in the budget. It's in the 1.825 million. So this $10,000 cut proposal would not be used then to pay for that individual. That individual or individuals, I have no idea, are already in the budget. Okay. This proposal from Selectman Gray is merely to reduce selectmen's pay, each of the 5 selectmen, from 7,000 to 5,000. And be in line with other towns in the area. We, as far as I can tell, we are the highest paid selectmen in this local area. There are other towns such as Conway that have much larger populations than we do, that have less stipend for the selectmen. And I believe her point is just to, A, put us back in line with other selectmen, and B, look at possible areas for cutting a $3.5 million budget.
If we could just make a clarification point that Conway uses a town manager, their selectmen have a significant dip in duties compared to what we have to do here. Tino?
Fernandez, Peak Vista Lane. I've got a procedural question because it's confusing as to what's going on here. Are you making a motion to cut the selectman's salary, and are you asking for them to vote, or has this decision already been made that you lost the vote 2-1 and the selectmen's salaries will not be decreased?
Actually, you make a good point. There never was a vote. It was just a conversation. There was a discussion in a select board meeting, but there was not a vote in a select board meeting. So
Well,
I guess...
is it appropriate here for you as a select board to have that vote so we can see how you're all going to vote on this motion?
Selectman Gray, if you'd like to make that motion, you're more than welcome.
All right. I will make a motion to reduce the selectman's stipend from $7,000 a year to $5,000 a year. It would be prorated starting approximately March 15th-ish or April 1st. So it would be $10,000 a year going forward, but prorated this year. So I make a motion to cut the selectman's stipend down to $5,000 from $7,000.
Do I have a second? Hearing no second, sounds like there won't be a vote. Any other discussion? Would you like to make that motion now, John?
I make a motion to accept Article 2 for $1.824
26.
and $26.
I'll second that. All those in favor of recommending Article 2 as read by John?
Aye.
Aye.
That's 3-0. So would the Budget Committee like to make their motion?
Yes. That the new tally for this article is $1.824026
That is correct.
million dollars?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Do I have a motion from our Bud Committee? Second? Okay. All those in favor of approving a $1.824 million Article 2, say aye. Oh, that's right, we have to do, Rick, sorry. Sarah? Yes. Okay, Article 2, Sarah votes yes. Joe? Yes. Ron?
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins? Yes? Okay. And I vote no. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4-1.
Thank you, Sharon. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,019,041 for public works. This one's a little bit shorter. So it looks like $249,250 for highway, $20,050 for Parks and Rec, $134,001 for solid waste, and $615,740 for administration. Any comment from the board before we go to the public?
I guess I'll just repeat what I've said in select board meetings. There was a position added last year that was not in the budget. I voted against adding the position. And of the 106-ish, or now I guess we're down to 105 or 4 something, $104,000 increase to the budget. That position, I believe, is adding $70,000 to the budget. So I guess I stand by my original vote that I don't think the position should have happened.
Anything from the Budget Committee before the public?
I think with this in mind, with Selectman Gray's comments in mind, I think I'd like to make the point that this committee has previously recommended to the Select Board that it review personnel hiring policies and create a more robust system for how we bring people into the town, when we give them pay raises, you know, when we add positions, what is an organization chart. All of those things, I believe, are important and necessary for running an efficient organization and running an efficient town. I don't believe that we have a robust system to do that. Previously, up this year, an individual, an employee could request a pay raise, and if the department head believed that it was warranted and merited, that department head could petition the Board of Selectmen and it could get approved, even if it was never in the budget. That puts the budget in a little bit of a question and causes the selectmen potentially to have to juggle things around. It tends to overrun lines when salaries are not included in those budgets, and then not just salaries, but salaries and benefits. I believe it's much more efficient and much more robust to plan those things accordingly, have an accurate organizational noted, and advertise for those positions. And if a new position needs to be created, that there's an analysis and a proper vetting for that position, who they report to, those kinds of things. Not just, we want to hire this person because we know they're going to do a good job. That may very well be, and I don't discount that, but is that position necessary? And if it is, then show us, and show the selectmen and the Budget Committee, so from a budgetary standpoint, we can review it and take a look at it and make sure that it's proper. I don't believe that that has been being done correctly or robustly, and I believe that it's important that it is in order for this town to be able to manage its finances correctly.
Just to clarify, after we had this discussion at a select board meeting, department heads were asked to bring raises to us during budget season and budget season only after reviews were done, so that we could budget for them as opposed to them being done mid-year. So that those steps have been taken. Questions or comments from the public?
Tino Fernandez again. We haven't heard why there's another position, and what was the reason or indication? Was there a new service or a new requirement that necessitated adding another employee?
So to clarify, the position wasn't added. The position has always been open. And the money for that person was in the budget that year, and it was made clear to us at the time of the hire that we had enough money to cover that person within the budget that had been voted on. The person had previously worked here, and we had added an open position that was not advertised for quite some time, and they came to us while the position was not necessarily advertised. We had advertised for quite some time and had no luck filling it.
The position was not in the budget. We were told that it would cost approximately $27,000 for the remainder of the year for this position. The DPW budget was gone through with a fine-tooth comb and came up short by at least, I think at least $11,000.
Ian Bartlett. I guess I would suggest, until you have a robust or responsible way of hiring and adding raises, that maybe we put a hold on this. And so you minus the $70,000 until there's a system in place to hire, fire, or give raises. It doesn't sound like that's in place, and that's my concern.
Steve Bartlett. A little bit confused again. I thought the movement of the top line director was part of what was being discussed with Sharon, and no, it was not last year's discussion coming into this year. So the 69 in that new employee, or that new line, is what is the 70,000?
Yes.
Okay. And that was in the previous year's lines?
No.
That's my confusion.
So the 72,000 was a position created in 2023,
Okay.
in the fall of 2023. In this presentation of the 2025 budget, it was moved. The lines were moved, which is why it stands out as its own line. There was no financial change in relation to that position or that $72,000. It was just presented differently in this format.
Okay. So the 69, or the 70,000 that stands out here now is the one that's being discussed?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Sorry, I don't mean to confuse. I'm confused.
The director's line is not what's being discussed.
No, the
That's what we just
69 in
clarified.
the full-time hourly line, the 70,000 in that line.
Yes, correct.
That's what we're talking about?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
It's not all of it, because that's the amount that ultimately went up.
Right. But if you look at the bottom line, the total DPW salaries line didn't increase by the full 60,000. It increased by 56,000.
Which is still 50% of the overall increase in the town budget.
Any other discussion or questions regarding this?
I just want to make a comment, and this is a little off the numbers. As most of you know, I work at the transfer station full-time. Well, not full-time, it's a part-time position, but I'm there all the time. Okay, how's this? I come in contact with a great number of you folks every single week. Hundreds of you come in the transfer station. And I also have a few people stop and make comments regarding town politics or budget money, taxes. In the last 6 months, I've received a number of people coming in since winter complimenting the highway department on the job that they're doing. I don't solicit it, it just comes to me. The people at Brookstone that we picked up last year, I've had 2 people from that area said they've never had their roads so well done. I had another gentleman from Allard Hill Road who said he has never seen the road in that condition after a snowstorm, and he's lived there for 30 years. So you're getting what you're paying for. That's all I'm going to say. And I don't have a dog in the fight.
I'd like to make a comment. And I don't disagree with Mr. Arruda. I believe that the Public Works Department does a good job on the roads. I personally live on a really back road, dirt. I'm the last one to get plowed, but you know, they get to me and they plow me in time for me to get to whatever I need to get to, and I don't have that I don't have that as an issue. My issue is that in order to manage the finances of this town and its effect on the taxpayer, it's important to understand and plan for those things. If you need to hire new people, there should be discussions that surround that. It shouldn't be you know, a 3-day thing that pops up and the job description is posted in the newspaper over a weekend and you give people 1 week to apply to it. I don't think that that's the way to hire individuals into important jobs in this town. I think, that, again, going back to the process that's being used should be more transparent and clear to the people when they are voting at the beginning of the year, meaning in March, that they're voting for this year in order that their taxpayer money pays for certain things and not for things that they didn't vote for. If you voted for it, that's great. Then you voted for it, and that's what they're going to spend the money on. But if this town didn't vote for an extra position or anything else that gets spent on, then the question is why? Are they not planning ahead? Are they not using the CIP? Are we not looking at the different issues and areas where we need attention? Is that not happening? And we need to focus on those things before we start to put money in a budget and take it out of your taxpayer pocket.
I just have a question. How many people work for the DPW, full-time and part-time?
Currently, the
Not
director
have
is
a,
dealing with, one second, Sherry.
Roadman or foreman for the DPW?
The director is dealing with a family emergency, so he's not here with us tonight. Off the top of my head, I don't know who was full-time and who was part-time without looking at our employment list.
That's concerning.
Yeah.
5 full-time and 6 part-time.
5 full-time and 6 part-time.
And that's Monday through Thursday?
Friday.
Monday through Friday.
That actually brings up another point. The director of the DPW is a part-time position. I believe that the management of that department is one of the crucial management positions within the town. There are so many moving parts to that department, and there are so many things that have to be planned ahead. The road priorities for paving, the amount of money that you're going to need to buy salt for the next year, how many roads are going to need a little bit of, grading and things of that nature. Those are the areas and the issues that I believe the director of the Public Works Department needs to focus on, needs to pay most of his attention to, is managing and planning that department, and not necessarily being the guy out plowing the roads. He has a crew to plow the roads. He has people that can do that. And I recognize that he wants to, there's the idea that it's all hands on deck, I should say, when it comes to those kinds of things, especially if there's a big storm. But with this position only being part-time, I believe that there are things that are not getting done that could get done and should get done if it were a full-time position. I'm not advocating for that this year, but I think going forward, I think the town really needs to look at that position being a full-time position.
Any other discussion?
Excuse me?
Any other questions or discussions on this article?
Thank you.
I'm trying to read it looking sideways and I can't. Okay, gotcha. All right. Oh, go ahead, Linda.
So it's a part-time position. It's a part-time position. And it does seem like, and my roads are great. I just want to say no problems at all. My roads are great. But it does seem like the kind of position that should be a full-time position. Has it always been part-time?
It has not. But when it was full-time, it was roughly $40,000 a year more expensive.
So is that how you decided for it to become part-time?
It was part of the discussion, yes. Seeing no one else running for the microphone, I would entertain a motion to recommend Article 3 as written.
Second.
I made it, John seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I do not recommend.
Selectmen is 201. Sharon?
Can't hear you, I'm sorry. For the Advisory Budget Committee, I'll entertain a motion to recommend for Article 3. Is there a second? Okay. With roll call vote, please state your preference, yes or no, for recommending Article 3. Sarah DiMartino? Yes. Sorry. Joe Dame?
Yes.
Yes. Ron Force?
No, I support Selectman Gray's conversation.
Rick Judkins? No. And I vote no as well. So that's 3-2, or I'm sorry, 2-3 against recommending.
Thank you, Sharon. Article 4, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $668,102 for public safety. $120,104 for the ambulance, $9,701 for emergency management, $165,750 for fire and rescue, $372,547 for police. Any discussion from the Board of Selectmen before we move to the Budget Committee?
No.
Selectman Gray?
Just trying to remind myself of the $50,000 increase in fire and rescue. I'm not saying it wasn't discussed, I'm just trying to remember what it was.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at expended.
What was that again?
That would be why I couldn't remember it. I was mistaken, I misspoke. The budget is essentially flatlined. 50,000 was underspent. It's not that the budget increased, I was looking at expended to proposed.
Any discussion from the Budget Committee before we move to the public? 1 second, Donna. I'd like to give the Budget Committee the opportunity to speak.
Mr. Judkins, do you have any comments? No? Rick, do you have any comment on this article? Yeah, do you have any comments on this article?
Yes.
3. Are we on? Oh, we're on 4, yep. You can't see us.
Sharon, your voice isn't going through the mic.
No, but he can't hear it from the mic anyway.
Oh.
He has no comments.
All right.
Thank you.
Public?
My time?
Sure is.
Donna Vayu again. I really don't have a question. I just liked, under Emergency Management Department, I understand we pay our Emergency Management Director $2,500 stipend, and the state pays some. Could someone help me understand that a little?
So, a little clarification on that. That emergency management stipend is not always spent. It is not always taken unless it is necessary. This year,
Can you speak into your mic? I'm sorry.
that stipend has not always been taken. That stipend gets taken when it needs to be used. This year, just so happened, it needed to be used for a number of reasons. This year, we are looking into getting it reimbursed from FEMA.
So I'm
But
not
that's not
questioning the
constant.
stipend. I'm wondering, how do we get, is it FEMA
It's not a
or is it the
reimbursement every
state?
year. The reimbursement will come from FEMA this year and this year alone.
It doesn't come from the state?
It comes from FEMA.
And how is that calculated?
A number of hours worked in different emergency situations based on a declaration by the governor of the state.
And we haven't applied for it before?
It depends on the year and depends on if an emergency was declared.
I see. Just want to understand it. Thank
Yep.
you.
Seeing no one else running for the microphone, I would entertain a motion for Article 4.
Make a motion to accept Article 4 in the amount of $668,102.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Selectmen are 300. Sharon?
In the Advisory Budget Committee, I'll entertain a motion to accept Article 4 for the amount of $668,102.
So moved.
Second? Okay. Roll call vote. Sarah, yes? Joe Dame, yes? Ron Force?
Yes, with a thanks to our police department for keeping a flatline budget. Thank you.
Mr. Judkins? Okay. And I vote yes. So that's,
Well, and for clarification, the fire department was flatlined.
Yeah. $150 less.
With no disrespect to
Chief Hayford.
To Chief Hayford. That went up a little bit.
All right. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $400,000 for paving and road improvements of town roads, including but not limited to Town Line, Forest Pines, and Jones Hill Roads. This will be a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32-7. Oh, jeez. And will not lapse until the funds have been exhausted with the completion of the project or by December 31st, 2030, whichever is sooner. Oh, I messed up. Any discussion from the board?
No, that line was cut by $100,000.
I think we had estimated that the 400 was going to cover 5 roads? But we only have 4 listed. I know it says including but not limited to. Is the plan to, are we prioritizing those 3?
I think the plan is to prioritize those 3, and the $100,000 that we cut is going to limit the top coat on Mooney Hill. Well, yeah, we won't be able to top coat Mooney Hill this year with that $100,000 cut, but those 4 roads are the priority.
Forest Pines, Jones Hill Road. Forest Pines, no?
I had Pine Hill Road as well.
Pine Hill. Is that in there?
I have that as red and marked as 2025 on the road CIP.
Is Mr. Slater here? Mr. Slater? What are the roads in your area? You've got Forest Pines, Jones Hill Road.
Pine Hill.
Pine Hill, okay, so yes, Pine Hill.
That's the most important one.
Pine, I knew. Pine Hill, I believe, was on that list.
So we'll have to correct the wording of Article 6 to add Pine Hill, or sorry, Article 5.
Did they used to call that Forest Pines Extension or something? No?
No.
Okay,
Forest
well,
Pines goes to the top of the hill, then bears to the right.
okay.
Pine Hill goes off to the left.
Okay.
You ought to see the potholes we got.
I knew that, I knew you had some importance in this article, that's why. Sorry, thank you.
That's fine. Any discussion from the Budget Committee before we move to the public?
yes, sir. I'd like to open it to anyone on the Budget Committee before I comment.
Yes, I'd like to make a comment, please. We have had for the last 2 or 3 years about a $250,000 warrant article for road improvement. This year, they initially asked for $500,000, which is twice last year's budget. We pushed back a little bit, and also the selectmen took a second look at this and lowered it to $400,000. The $400,000 is a 60% increase over the last 2 or 3 years. In my opinion, as your Budget Committee member, that's a steep climb in 1 year. I'd like to see that on a graduated basis. So this is not the night for it, but when we get to the annual meeting, I'm going to suggest a 30% increase to $325. So I'm not in favor of a leap to 60% in 1 year on behalf of the taxpayers.
Okay, go ahead.
Where that number came out with, I'm Joe Dame. It was earlier this year. I went over, I met with Josh Shackford, the director of DPW, and he gave me a list of prioritized roads, and there was a cost estimate from R&D paving. It was $480-something thousand, almost $500,000. And I went out, I actually drove the roads, and Ron Forrest did as well. And I agree with your comments, you know, Pine Hill, there's some serious potholes and things on there. So I went back, I met with the, I think it was Justin and Josh at the DPW, you know, what are we gonna do? And I know it was almost $500,000, and it went, as Ron had clearly pointed out, from $250. But the cost of the labor, the asphalt, and everything else has gone up. I actually went to the Federal Highway Authority website. If you know me, I do my research on these things. And costs in just the last 3 or 4 years are up over 50% on roads. And, you know, we're in a pickle here. And I agree with Ron, we can't afford huge increases, but we have not invested in our roads in several decades. And if you go out to like Town Line Road, it's awful. I mean, it's broken up, it's down to, you know, underneath to the whole road has to be redone. And if we don't invest and try to keep up with this, it gets worse and worse, and the cost goes up exponentially.
What happens when you put things
we just keep deferring the maintenance on the roads. And I think you're seeing it on Pine Hill and others. Ron and I agree. When I went out, the whole road doesn't need to be done. We're not going to, grade down the whole road and repave it. But there's sections, especially on the hills and in the valleys, where the potholes, it washes out and form. Again, I can't believe the cost increase. I mean, you look at the oil prices and everything, right? Asphalt is a petroleum product, and the labor to put it down. So, if we had stuck to the 250K, we're only getting 50% of the roads that we got just, a few years ago. We're falling further behind. And I really don't know what to do. I'm not recommending we spend $500,000 either. But I think Ron and I discussed at one of the meetings, and Sharon, the committee, we were talking about $325K maybe this year, right? At least we can start to address some of the higher priority roads and try to catch up, and it's going to take time. We're not going to solve, these problems overnight. But again, the further we delay this out, the worse the roads are going to get. So I know $400,000 is a lot of money, and I can't support that right now. I'm more in line with about, as Ron is suggesting, a smaller increase. But again, I think it's important we have to invest in this before, the roads get worse.
Like you said, Joe, if you keep putting it off, so, I mean, it needs to be done.
I have another point. This goes back to the discussion I had, or the comment I had a little bit earlier about prioritizing things. One of the things that we're working off of is a spreadsheet that categorizes roads as red, yellow, green, or blue. But it has no prioritization within those categories as like, okay, what's the worst road in town? And if we couldn't have $400,000, how much road improvement can we get for, say, $325? Or do we need $350? Or do we only need $310 because it's going to cost us $100,000 to do that last road? We don't have that, and I think we need that, and we should have that as taxpayers to be able to take a look at that and have our DPW take a look at that and understand the numbers and not just say, well, let's do all the red roads. We may not be able to do all the red roads. And what makes it a red road? I think it's important to understand that and working with them. There are 5 or 6 roads that are categorized as red. Most of us can agree after they drove them that at least the top 3 of those roads are definitely red, but some of the others maybe not so. So I think it's important to have valid numbers, and I think it's important to have affordable numbers to be able to do the things we can do on a schedule that continues to progress us and not degrade us. They took $100,000 off of this warrant article. That $100,000 was slated to do the final top coat on Mooney Hill Road. That road can probably withstand that not having its top coat for maybe another year, but come next year, we're going to have to do that. Otherwise, we're degrading the road and would have to rebuild some of it, repave some of it, and not just do the top coat. There will be some level of damage to it. So it's understanding all of that and having those answers in order to be able to actually use those answers to make responsible fiscal decisions.
I'd like to make one more comment,
one last.
please. Okay. About 8 or 10 years ago, the state DPW came in at the Madison Library and talked to the town folks, because a lot of us were complaining about Route 41, Route 113. They were not being taken care of properly. At that meeting, DPW promised us that every 10 years they would resurface the roads, because they have been behind the power curve in the past, and they have not done 113 every 10 years. And as of late, they've redone 41 now, but I think we ought to follow their lead and develop a 10-year plan. We put every road in Madison on that plan, so we address and we prioritize it from the worst road to the best road. And we make sure that all the roads are covered in 10 years. We do some kind of work on them to keep them, because once you deteriorate, and the DPW told us at that meeting, and it's an important point, you don't let a road degrade to the point that it's falling apart. It costs more money to do that than to just come in and resurface when it's still in good condition. It's less money out of your pocket at the state level and at the local level. So again, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Selectman, that we have a 10-year plan. And again, if the state's doing it and it's working, it might be a good idea for us to take their lead and develop a 10-year plan with every road in Madison on it. And again, I am not opposed at all if we approve 325 or whatever number it is that Sharon talked about at the annual meeting. We might have to increase that next year to 400 or 410, whatever it is. But develop that plan first so we know what we're dealing with from top to bottom, literally. Thank you.
Any discussion or comments from the public?
My name is Mark Ratham, and I just want to say I agree with you, Joe, is the worst road on that list is Town Line Road.
Oh, it's awful.
It's unbelievable. That was done in 2007. If you're looking for a 10-year plan, you're way beyond 10 years for that one.
We're 2 decades behind.
That road has to be done. On the top, it's got potholes all the way up and down. It's cracked. It cracked right after they did it. If you remember, the contractor had to come back. But at the top of Town Line Road, we don't call it a pothole. There's a grave. It's 6 feet long and 3 feet wide. And they've fixed it, and the trucks just rip it back open again. So you have to fix that road this year.
Mr. Conway.
What's that?
The very top of that road belongs to Conway.
At an angle.
Yeah, at an angle.
The grave is on the Madison side of that angle.
Oh, too bad.
Not only that, it forces the cars coming into that, the intersection has an acute angle to it. It doesn't come in at 90 degrees, it comes in at a sharper angle. The cars coming uphill see that grave, and they stay away from it. They move to the middle of the road. Now the cars are coming from Conway, are taking this acute angle into a car that's sitting in the middle of the road because of the grave. You have to fix that road. So way overdue. In 10 years is the plan. That's what Conway does. Degliangeli would tell you that. Town Line Road is the worst.
Marcia McKenna, I agree with Mr. Force that a 10-year plan would be a really good idea. And I also agree with Mr. Dame that we're kind of between a rock and a hard place here. Now, this might not be the article that we should cut. Maybe we should, as a town, raise up the money in this article and start to get ahead of the problem, because we all know that it's not going to be less expensive next year or the year after. So maybe finding some compromise here, but I personally would rather see the 400,000 in an attempt to get ahead of the issue, because it's only going to cost us more money in the long run to put this off. But I think with a plan, with a 10-year plan, looking at all the roads, it seems to be a really good workable solution to a problem that's only getting worse.
Until we have that plan. Until we have that plan, we don't know what our requirements are.
So the previous DPW director had put together, we're calling it kind of a capital improvement plan for the paved roads in Madison. Our current DPW director has begun updating it and is reordering them, recategorizing them, especially based on Joe's driving around, and now Ron's driving around, and their own work evaluating the roads. So it isn't officially a 10-year plan, but it's the beginning. And looking at it, we talked about these 4 or so roads that are slated for 2025. The top coat on Mooney Hill has been pushed another year out because we took that $100,000 out of this year's warrant. And then there are 4 roads on, not including Mooney Hill, that have kind of been pushed, that were on the red list, that have been pushed back to 2026. And based on the very rough, I will definitely say very rough estimates provided by the DPW, that is about $933,000 for the 4 or 5 roads for next year.
How much?
So I'm just trying to put everything in a little bit of perspective.
There's a lot of good points, Steve Bartlett. There's a lot of good points. I agree there may not be a perfect 10-year plan, but I do recall when I was on the committee that there was a plan. It has some basis to it. We had a plan put forward to how we were going to do our roads in the future. Like you just said, we have some for next year and the year after. I don't think we should be deferring the maintenance plan, given that we have no control over all the costs. I don't like the cost spikes, but the things cost what they cost, and if we keep cutting 100 out or X out, we're never going to get ahead and even catch up to the plan we have, and these roads are just going to get worse and worse and worse. We're already in a boat where they're bad in some instances. So I appreciate cost control, I appreciate a plan. Let's get a better plan, great, but we can't control the costs, and this year things are bad, but we had a plan in place, and I just don't think deferring anymore is going to get us ahead of anything. So I don't have a lot of basis on that either, but we're still working against, I think, something that was there. So anyway, I don't see us getting ahead.
All right. Do I have a motion from the board to recommend this article?
I got a motion to recommend Article number 5 for $400,000.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board of Selectmen is 3-0-0. Sharon?
Advisory Budget Committee, I'll accept a motion to recommend Article 5 to the tune of $400,000. Sarah DiMartino, recommend. Do I have a second? Joe Dame. Roll call vote. Sarah, your vote? Hold on 1 second, sorry. Joe?
Yes.
Ron?
It's a tough one.
Oh.
I'm going to abstain because I'd like to see a plan. I'd like to see more detail. And that 10-year plan, I think it's so important to get all of our roads on it. Like the gentleman said earlier, 2007, since that road's been maintained, that's crazy. So without a plan, I have to abstain.
Okay. Needs a plan. Rick Judkins? On Article 5? No? Sharon? No. So I have 2 yeses, 2 noes, and 1 abstain.
That means not recommend.
2 to 1, that means not recommend.
All right. Do you want me to read Article 6 first?
I just have, it's about all the articles.
Go ahead.
Earlier in the meeting, thank you, Nicole Nordland, thank you for doing the math on the increase on Articles 3, 4, or 2, 3, and 4. Can you please tell us the percentage increase for all the articles that we're going over right now, the warrant articles? How much that brings it us up to from a percentage standpoint in our budget?
Says on the front.
I do.
Article 3 is 5.63%.
I mean total, if you could total. Yeah, for all of them.
That's for the general, but all
All
warrant
warrant
articles.
articles, it was mentioned in another budget committee meeting, and I just wanted you to reiterate
That doesn't
that.
include
So
the
I'm remembering it.
Over last year's approved budget.
12%?
Yes. Over 12%, if you take all the warrant articles,
As written
is 12%, just a hair over 12% over last year's approved budget for town.
Thank you.
Yeah. Where's my warrant article summary? Why don't I have? Nicole, do you mind clarifying real quick for me? Were you asking specifically about 2, 3, and 4, or the warrant as a whole?
No, remember earlier we said 2, 3, and 4 were 3%.
Okay.
3%, so the rest represent
Yep.
fill in the blank. Yeah.
Yep, got it. Thank you. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to ratify a 7-year lease agreement entered into by the selectmen in the amount of $377,500 for the purpose of leasing a grader, and to raise and appropriate $67,600 for the first year's payment for that purpose. This lease agreement contains an escape clause, and the town will own the grader at the end of 7 years. Discussion from the Board of Selectmen.
I struggled with voting for the grader because it certainly didn't have $67,000 in the budget. You know, it was an off-cycle purchase. It was after, after town meeting and all that. Joe Dane was kind enough to do several different reports on whether or not we should proceed to lease this new grader, whether we should rent. He provided, several options. The conclusion was financially that renting would have been the most effective option. I still voted for the lease, but have gone back and forth every day since. I've heard from several, couple different who sell graders, both new and used. They have indicated that there are used ones in the state available right now. Some of them are 10 years old, some of them are 5 years old. Of the level, same maintenance grade grader, so basically the same, same level of grader, equivalent graders, different brands, for $155,000. And they're available tomorrow, could be shipped and delivered. I've asked, is there this great lease, this great shortage on graders? And they said no. I said, has there been for the past year? They said no. I felt cornered when we voted to move forward with the lease. And I just feel like we still haven't pursued other options. We've asked the DPW for Plan B. We got Article 7 today as a Plan B if Article 6 fails and we don't accept the lease for the grader as we have it. So it's a tough one. It's a tough issue, and it just, yeah, I know there are so many things that people have come to me with. People have come to me and said, we got a construction grade grader. We only need a maintenance grade grader. We've heard that there are no other, I keep joking, the Seinfeld line, there's no villas in Tuscany. There's nothing available. It sounds like there are. There are graders at the level that we do need, maintenance grade, not grade. There's new, there's used, and I was told the wait time time for a new one is 30, 45 days. So,
Do you have those quotes to present to the board?
yeah, actually, I got an email for one today.
I'd love to see it.
Yep.
Thank you.
So it just happened probably about 4:30 this afternoon. So I still struggle with, what I vote to recommend this article. I voted to have the grader in the first place, but I still go back and forth on it, so.
I think you need to consider, as far as rentals are concerned, I'm not speaking to the availability of graders in that nature, but as far as rentals are concerned, it's my understanding that there is only one grader in this area with a wing plow on it, which we do use. And even then, if there are other graders available, they're minimal, and we've run into it plenty of times where when we needed a grader to rent because the one we had was down, they're available to rent. And that was part of the discussion that was had when we decided to lease this one.
Just a couple of comments. This is a piece of equipment that's going to be around for the better part of 30 years. So when you spread those costs out, it's not a terrible lot of money over 30 years. I like the unit as a Caterpillar, and don't have any stock in Caterpillar, so I don't care about that. We've got a piece of equipment, a Volvo. At times we had trouble getting service on it. Caterpillar is there all the time for you. I think it's a great investment. We certainly need one. Relying on renting, I think that would be unreliable, because when we need it, no doubt, they need it. As far as I know, there's only one available in the valley to rent. On top of the fact, I believe they're $3,000 to rent, and you got mobilization charges to pick it up and move it, and pick it up and bring it back. I'm in favor of it.
Speaking to buying a used grader or something of that nature, the warranty that we got with this new grader is pretty significant compared to what we might see on something that's used. Any discussion from the Budget Committee before we open it up to the public?
Yes. This conversation that we're having now should have happened last spring.
It did. It happened.
There was time to have a town meeting to discuss whether or not this town wanted to invest what amounts to $473,200. When you take the $67,600, unfortunately, the way you're required to write articles does not necessarily tell you the entire cost of a piece of equipment or an investment that you're making, because it doesn't allow you to put in what separately the interest. Yes, we paid $377,000. That's what the contract was for. But the interest on that contract makes us pay $67,600 per year over 7 years. That's $473,200. That's almost $500,000. That conversation is worthy of being had in front of all of you, where you could have your input, you could ask questions. This wasn't a decision that should have been rushed. We are now in a bit of a corner where we've purchased the grader. We've been operating the grader since October. Unless we had presented it, there was not a alternative at the time by the Board of Selectmen. That should have happened. It was Joe Dame who did all the analysis from the Advisory Budget Committee to say what it would cost us to rent one, what it would cost us to I don't know, what it would cost us to lease out to somebody or contract out the grading of our roads. Okay, there are 26 miles of gravel dirt roads that need to be graded. It amounts to basically 52 miles because you got to go down and back. 52 miles of using a grader. Okay, there are other alternatives, but they were not given a robust discussion, and nor were you, the townspeople, allowed the opportunity other than attending a selectmen's meeting. There was no town meeting that was held to decide to spend this money.
Sharon, there was a public hearing.
There was a public hearing,
Yep.
but there wasn't like a town meeting,
Special.
a special town meeting to do this.
Specific.
And again, at $500,000, I think it was an important.
There was no special town meeting because we weren't overexpending the budget. We were using the money from the trade-in on that grader, and no money would be expended until this year, which is why the discussion is on this warrant. There was a public hearing in accordance with all RSAs. The discussion was had. The discussion was actually had last April, where we decided because of budgetary concerns not to buy a grader last March, if I'm not mistaken, and those problems came to light when our grader continued to fail throughout the year. So we made a mistake in not doing it last year, but we didn't have a choice come last fall. So the discussion has been had quite a bit, and this board has done its due diligence across all forms.
I'm talking about a legislative process. In this case, in my opinion, we did not follow our typical protocol, legislative process, and review, as Sharon just talked about. This is a monstrous, one of the largest expenses we've had in this town in many years. And the selectmen, to my knowledge, made a commitment, signed a contract, a leasing contract, without basically going before the voters, asking for their input, getting approval for funding, and getting approval for the purchase or lease. They signed a 7-year unilateral lease without our permission. That troubles me greatly. Okay, number one. Number two is they have a correct me if I'm wrong, a 140, which is, as Selectman Gray just talked about, is a road construction machine. It's got all the bells and whistles. It's a monster. I took a picture of it. You got to look at it. It's huge. Okay? In my opinion, we had a Cat 120 here for many decades that did our roads just fine. It's overkill, in my opinion, way too expensive without the legislative body being involved in the process. That troubles me.
Ron, the legislative body was involved in this. We had the public hearing, and to be fair, you're more than welcome to vote it down. We just won't grade our roads anymore.
I didn't hear that.
Are we done with the budget committee comments?
No, I have.
Joe?
As you've heard, my name has been tied to this thing since last May. I don't know. You know, be careful what you volunteer to look into, because I've learned more about road graders since last May than I ever thought I would. Again, I did a market survey. I did a cost analysis. I presented papers to the Board of Selectmen. The actual requirement, and Sharon has brought it up, we have 22 or 26 miles of gravel road, so it's 50, 52, out and back, right, 2 lanes, that have to be regularly maintained. If we get the storms like we had last April where the roads wash out, that type of thing, the grader is used. We had a 1987 Cat 120, as Ron has pointed out. We paid, I think Linda had sent me the original paperwork, $80,000. That was 37 years ago. The machine was worn out. It had, the hour meter broke at about 10 or 12,000. I estimate it had about 15,000 hours on it. I looked up the Cat, maintenance schedules for these machines, everything. As you know, I'm very detail oriented. We were at the point where there was 80% probability of major parts failing, the transmission, the engine, the hydraulics. The machine was in constant repair. Several years ago, it caught on fire. It was $60,000 to replace the wire harness and that type of thing. The machine was worn out. I think we can all agree we needed a new grader. Again, I don't agree with the process, as Ron has pointed out, of how we got there, but the town needs a grader. And so I looked at the price on that, and I saw the original quote from Milton Caterpillar, and it was $419,000. And as Ron, as Sharon has said, well, that's a lot of money. So I went out and I looked at both new and used machines, Cat 140 all-wheel drives, and they were $480,000 to over $500,000. So Milton Cat did give the town a very fair, competitive price for, again, a highly capable, nice Cat 140. Then I looked at what the annual cost was, and it's $67,000 a year to make the lease payments. So the total cost, Sharon pointed out, is $473,000, almost $500,000 over 7 years. So I looked at different options, and I went to the Board of Selectmen meeting, and I said the first thing we can do, we can fix the machine we have. It needed, there was a water pump or a coolant leak in it. The oil cooler was getting engine oil into it, so there was needed probably another $8,000 worth of work. Again, you're fixing a very old, worn-out machine. Could we have gotten another year out of it? If Caterpillar did that work? Yeah, maybe, maybe not, right? And I started looking at the cost. When that machine is out on the road, you have the dump trucks with the gravel, and they're putting the culverts, they're cleaning things out, they're grading the roads. That machine breaks down in the middle of nowhere out here. It's costing us a fortune to come haul that thing out and get it fixed. We need a reliable grader. And what had happened was, I believe DPW reached out to Milton Cat, and they had this Cat 140 all-wheel drive that was in the production chain. And it's actually made in Brazil. Caterpillar has a big factory outside Rio, and it was being shipped. It was ready to ship, and it was shipped into Baltimore just before the bridge collapsed. So they did get it into the harbor. They sent it over to Vermont to have the Craig snowplows put on. So that $419,000 included the big wing plow that's on the big, if you say to run the seam around. This is a big grader. This is, it moves snow and a lot of dirt. Again, very competitive price. And one of the things I brought up at the beginning of this last May or June, and we actually asked the DPW, can you repair this machine? And they said no. This is a high-tech machine. It's a modern, big diesel engine, very powerful machine. So what we did, we made sure we got the extended warranty service with it. So it has a 7-year, 3,500-hour warranty. And Milton Cat is outstanding. A couple months ago, the Cat 920 loader broke. The transmission failed. That's a $40,000 repair. Milton Cat was here the next day, brought a replacement machine up, brought that loader back down to their shop, Southern New Hampshire, brought a transmission in from Germany to put into that, because we had bought the extended warranty and service plan with it. So we made sure that was in this new grader. Again, it's very, very expensive. We're, $67,000 a year for 7 years, $473,000. The second option was to lease or rent. I looked at the cost to rent. I looked at how many hours a year that grader is being used. And I actually looked at our new grader the other day, had 150 hours on it so far. So my cost estimate was about 300 to 350 hours a year. So that we're talking 8 weeks of rental, 2 months. So 8 weeks times, I think it's $3,300 a week or something. I don't know, 25, 30 grand a year to rent from Burke Quarry. So it came out to about half the price of having our own. But again, there's pros and cons with that. There's only one grader. Burke has one grader. What do you do if they're using it? If we get another storm like we had in April, and the DPW needs to get out and repair these roads, can we afford to wait, till a grader becomes available, or they can rent one from, Massachusetts or Southern New Hampshire somewhere? I don't know. So that's the call. And again, it's a very capable machine. You'll see it around this week. I went out, saw it this week. They're out pushing all the snowbanks with it. This is a year-round machine. It's just not for the gravel roads. You'll see it has huge wing plow on it. They're pushing all the snowbanks back. Again, it's a very capable machine. Yeah, a lot more than the Cat 120 we had. But as Mr. Aruda pointed out too, you know, it is a 30-year investment, right? So I know I'm very torn on this. Again, I agree with Ron and Sharon. I don't like the process, how it was done. It should have went to, you know, some type of special town meeting so the voters could have an input on it. But, you know, now we've had the machine since October. If this gets voted down, what happens? We're out all that money. Our road grader's gone, and we've lost that $32,500. Plus, I think Linda, you know, to get out of this lease, it's going to cost us $410,000. You know, that's what will be owed on the grader if it's voted down and we have to return it, you know, in March or early April. So again, we're in a real pickle here. You know, we do need a grader. Is it this grader? I don't know. That's, I mean, up for you to decide, you know, and I'm not sure how to proceed on this, but we are backed into a corner. The machine or a similar machine is needed. We have that requirement, and I'm not sure the best way to actually proceed.
Joe, just to clarify, there is an Article 7 placed in here on the warrant that if Article 6 were to fail, we would sell that grader for $409,750 as opposed to using the escape clause to save us that money.
So I'm trying to figure out, just George Epstein, town moderator, I should note it in this case. I'm trying to figure out how to present this article so that there'll be anybody left in the room of this article. Let me see if I can understand this. So at the time of last year's town meeting, there was not a conviction that this absolutely had to be done. You weren't sure. Subsequent to that, it became absolutely necessary to get a grader. The public hearing was held, and you proceeded with signing a 7-year lease. Article 6 says that the lease contains an escape clause, and normally that means if the town doesn't continue to fund it, you stop that lease. But that's not how this works. Is that correct?
That is how it could work. The lease, the agreement does contain an escape clause, but rather than utilizing that escape clause, it would be better for us financially to sell the grader if it were to fail, if Article 6 were to fail.
Because we'd get more for the sale of the grader, and
twofold.
we'd make a profit, essentially.
Twofold. It becomes a borrowing issue because of the escape clause, and we may not be able to borrow in the future should we use it. Who knows? It's a credit hit, essentially, as far as the municipality goes. But also to save us the money on the trade-in. We could sell it for more than the escape clause would allow us to send it back for.
So Article 6 says, let's keep going, and we are blessing the lease that was done last year, and we're going to pay the $67,000 a year for the 7 years, and we'll own it at the end of the 7 years. That's what Article 6 says.
Correct.
And Article 7 says we would sell it, we would have enough left over to pay off the escape. We wouldn't use the escape clause. We have enough left to pay off the remainder of the lease, and then what would we do?
We wouldn't have a grader.
We wouldn't have a grader.
Wouldn't have a grader. So that was your nasty little comment about we wouldn't grade our roads anymore. Okay.
That's it wasn't a nasty comment. Ultimately, that is, if it gets voted down, that is where we're at.
Blunt comment is the term I would use. And we would not have an article as an alternative to do or to have in the budget the opportunity to rent, or at least we wouldn't have any money specifically set aside in the budget for rental.
We would have to amend something on the floor to rent.
And so I guess then my only request would be that you ask the attorney whether either of these two articles could be amended to a rental agreement if someone wanted to make that proposal, just so we knew whether we had to do that. If not, and Article 6 was defeated, Article 7, I guess, passed, you would have potentially the ugly experience of somebody saying, let's reopen Article 3 or whatever one it is, and that doesn't make people happy, nor me, because people may have left and so on. So it would be nicer to know we could amend this if someone was going to propose setting aside additional monies for a rental.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. George, if you wouldn't mind, since you will be moderating the town meeting, would it behoove town meeting to put Articles 6 and 7 before Article 3?
That would be one way to get at that issue of, and then being able to address the rental in the operating budget. If I could, since I'm not sure I'm going to make it here for the next 12 hours during this hearing, I also have a comment, and I'm cheating here, but Article 22, which oddly calls for a bond issue, and I'm going to let you guys explain why they think that's a good idea. But a bond issue normally would require 1 hour of the polls being open.
If it's over $100,000.
If it's over, so because this is limited to exactly $100,000, you would not have to keep it open.
Nope, just it is a paper ballot vote.
Yeah,
It doesn't fall under the
even
bond.
so, if I had my druthers, you would move that up somewhat earlier in the budget and the warrant so that we could keep going through stuff, because I don't know how long it'll take to have the paper ballot vote on that particular one. Okay, so there you go.
Okay.
That
We get to
answers
we
your
can talk about
questions.
moving it up. Thank you, George. All right, where are we? We're in Article 6.
Hi, Tino Fernandez, not to beat this to death, but I was present at that June 24th meeting, which was the mandatory meeting that you had to call to be able to do this emergency purchase. And I'm just going to get the bottom line because a bunch of numbers can confuse me, but this is Joe Dame's work, which was excellent work. It's the kind of work that we should be doing routinely when we do these kind of expenses. And when it comes down to it, it's $310 per road mile. We don't have that many road miles. We don't have to do. If we rent, well, we were renting, and we were able to rent, and there was a gentleman there from Coleman who said they have graders available too. So those are possibilities. But we're changing that, if we buy this, to $782 per mile. So those bottom numbers ring a bell with me right away. And the fact that we're going to have a grader for 30 years means that we'll have the last 15 years spending tons of money to keep it running like we are this one. The real issue I have is with the process, and I hold you as a board responsible for this, because a grader is not an emergency thing. We were renting a grader. We were doing okay. Maybe not the greatest, but we were working on that. This is an expense that should have been before the town, either in a special meeting or at the annual meeting, because this is an expense that the town needs to vote on. And we didn't get that choice. And on top of that, we now may face some penalties if we break this lease and we have some complications of it. So I think the democratic process wasn't really done as well as it should be, and I hold you, the board, all three of you, responsible for that.
Just to clarify, when this came up, we were posed with the problem that if we didn't move forward with one of the 1 or 2 graders that were available, it would be roughly 18 months before we saw another one.
You could have continued to rent a grader.
If you could come to the microphone, Tino, if you don't mind, if you're going to speak. Thank you.
I think that's that was a false argument. You could have continued to rent the grader as we were renting at that time, called a special meeting in 5 weeks, and we could have voted on it. We were kind of pushed into this by saying, this is a grader, it's the only one available, we got to get it, and that's how we wound up where we are right now. So I think the town is now going to have a difficult decision because there are some drawbacks to vote us down, and they may be financially painful.
Nicole Nordland, I'd just like some clarification because that was definitely, one of the numbers I was interested in is the per mile cost for renting versus owning our own equipment and pay, so I was wondering if you can tell me if that includes our personnel riding on the rented equipment.
That was Joe Dame's report.
Oh,
And
okay.
if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, it does, but
Because
I'd
that's
let
almost
Joe
double.
clarify.
It costs almost double to own our own stuff.
When I did the calculations, and I didn't review them before the meeting tonight, but I trust Tino's numbers. I use a loaded cost, which runs government, people of government. I looked at the hourly rate for the operator,
right,
and it's probably about 2 times that for benefits and everything as well. I look at the cost of the diesel fuel, maintenance, and what it costs per hour to run that grader. And it came out to what, $381? $310 to do a mile of gravel road with a rental machine, and it was $700, a little over.
I wrote $782.
If we bought a machine, at least this one.
So
Again,
why are
I
we
looked
buying
at,
a machine?
the cost and rentals. Again, I based a lot of it on the anticipated hours of use per year.
Okay.
And yesterday, I spoke with the DPW. I said, how many hours are on the new grader right now? And they told me 150 hours of use since early October. I saw it the day after it was delivered in early October to the DPW yard. And they're anticipating using it 2 or 3 days this week to get ready for the snows that are coming. So I think my numbers were accurate, about 320 hours a year of use. So we could say 8 weeks a year, of use times, $3,000, it's about 25,000. Tino has a report there. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was about half or a little bit under to rent versus buy.
So it's confusing. You're switching between road miles and hours.
I tried to break it down
Okay.
into what does it cost to do a mile of gravel road.
Right. So that's great. I've wanted this number for like 20 years. So, I'm all for renting all of our equipment now.
Well, I think we need to keep in mind that cost per mile is only for the 7 years, and then for the next 10 or 15 years that we own this grader after that cost is significantly less.
But then we have 7 years to save for one too, right? A little bit at a time, maybe? I'm just a big saver, so.
Yep.
My comment is, we may say that we use the grader for 8 weeks a year, but we don't use it for an entire week. It could be you come into work on Tuesday, there was a wicked storm last night, and you have to grade the road that Tuesday, but then you don't need it for anything else, so you end up renting a grader for a week for a project that you only needed it for 1 day. So you got to keep that in consideration too.
So I believe Mr. Epstein clarified that if Article 6 does not pass and Article 7 does not pass, there should be a Plan B. We're not going to just not grade our roads, that we could go back to renting. It's a possibility.
We would need to make that amendment on the floor at town meeting to increase our budget but we are going to talk to our attorney about possibly amending the wording of this should it fail, as opposed to
Okay.
going back to Article 3.
Thank you.
I just have 2 comments. One, you guys are, for the most part, a newer board, so I feel it's fair to say that yeah. So I feel like it's fair to say this was kind of dropped in your laps. So I just wanted to point that out. And I believe, knowing people, that this is kind of a lesson, right? And that you will consider this moving forward. That was my first comment. My second is, can we rent the grader? If we choose to buy it, can we rent it out to other...
Can we rent it?
To, recoup some of that money?
We can explore that option.
Just a thought. 'Cause-
Mobilization would be the biggest issue, but something we can look into.
Okay. Thank you.
Just a point of clarification. I'm remembering the initial talks when we were first discussing this, almost last meetings, we were discussing this in relation to how much do we use the grader? And it was 2 weeks in the spring, 2 weeks in the fall, and anytime we got an incredible rain. I don't remember ever talking about plowing, so I don't know if we lost a truck somewhere and we're now plowing only with a grader, and it's absolutely necessary to have it in the winter now. I am confused about that, because that definitely, the two do, and if we get a torrential rain making tons of potholes, was something that just, sticks in my head. If we could just get clarification maybe from Joe that studied that.
The old 1987 Cat 120 did have the Craig mounts on it. The Craig mount is, if you see the grader that's out there now, is the big plow on the front. That's the, Craig makes that. And Craig makes the one on the side that moves the blade in and out, up and down. So it's made by a company called Craig. The old grader did have that, and what they're doing is they're using the old blades on the new machine. This new grader came with the Craig mounts. They were added in Vermont after it was delivered to Baltimore. The old Cat 120 was not an all-wheel drive. It was just, there's 6 sets of wheels on a grader. And it had a smaller diesel engine, didn't have the power to plow really heavy. This new machine is all-wheel drive. It's like 4-wheel drive in your car. And so they're out using it now, and it has, I believe, the blade is about 10 or 12 feet, so they can really push it back. And that was one of the pros on going with this machine, was the year-round use. So when we do get, like we're getting now, back-to-back storms, they can go out and push that snow back. And I saw them working in carved and bark yesterday, day before. They've been up and down all the town roads. And again, the DPW, in my opinion, is doing a really good job this winter of keeping the roads clear. So again, I think we did upgrade the machine, as Ron pointed out. We have a bigger, heavier machine. The old machine weighed, I think, 28,000 pounds or something. This new one's about 46, 48,000 pounds. I mean, it's a significantly bigger machine. I mean, it's probably 8 or 10 feet longer, a couple feet higher. But again, it has a lot more capability, which is why the cost was $419,000.
I feel like we went from like a 72 Dodge Dart to a Maserati. I feel like there's some middle ground that we didn't explore. I mean, when you walk into a Chevy dealer, to look for a nice family sedan, and you walk out with a Corvette because it was a great deal, not really practical. So I just want to make sure that we have... That might be.
Used option that you mentioned.
Right. There were other options. There are options now.
That was a part of my initial cost analysis from the market survey. And there's a lot of used machines available that have 4,000, 6,000, 8,000 hours on them. When you start to get into the higher, anything about over 6,000 hours, that's when the repairs start. If you look at the Caterpillar, repair schedules and things like that, there's a lot more maintenance involved as the machine gets older, just like we saw with the 87 Cat 120. We were constantly putting money into that to repair it. So, yeah, we can get a used machine for 150, 160,000, but how much are you going to put into that, over the next 6, 8, 10 years too, as the hours get up on the machine?
Marcia McKenna, I remember many years ago that the town adopted a CIP, a capital improvement plan, where large expenses like this were supposed to be considered and then prorated over, I believe it was a 10-year period, to prevent things like this from happening when there was a huge expense one year that nobody was anticipating. And I don't know what happened to that capital improvement plan. I don't know who was supposed to be overseeing that, which, if it's budget or planning or who does that, but I just wondered if it was dead and buried, or if it was something that might be resurrected in order to prevent things like this from happening. I just don't, it comes up every so often, but I don't know how effective it is in the town government at the moment.
So, Marcia, Sadly, the CIP is a planning board issue.
Planning board.
However, there are a few generous people, Joy included, that are working on the CIP currently. And if you look forward into the warrant, there's an article to establish a CIP committee.
Oh, great. I mean, it seems like a really good plan, but I know it's a lot more work, and again, another committee that never gets the support that it needs, but I'm hoping that maybe because of something like this, people might reconsider re-implementing it and getting involved in the process. Thank you.
Thanks.
Noreen Downs. Not everybody that may be attending the town meeting in March may be familiar with all of the details surrounding this particular grader. There's so much happening just nationally. It's kind of hard to keep up with every detail in all of your meetings. I would really like to suggest that you do a really good job of presenting what these two articles represent, what the options are, so that people that are coming in March are a little bit better informed than trying to pick up, you know, what's happening with Article 6 and then with 7. I think it would just be really helpful if we could see a presentation on, even if it's a picture of what we're looking at, what are the choices here. I think it would just do you well to make sure that everybody feels as if they have the information in front of them rather than trying to piece these articles together. Thanks.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you.
All right. Seeing nobody else headed for the microphone, do I have a motion to recommend Article 6?
I'll make that motion.
I will second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain until I get the information that's coming through now.
We're on the extension, or you good? Sharon?
201, yep. I'll entertain a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee to recommend Article number 6. Sarah DiMartino's motion. Do I have a second? Joe Dame. We'll do a roll call vote. Excuse me. Sarah? Yes. Joe?
I don't see, personally, I don't see a solution to this. This is very difficult, and I'm going to vote yes, and I just 2 seconds to explain why. We are deep in a hole here, we need a grader, and if this goes bad and we go back starting over, we potentially have a lot of money on the line here. We already traded the old grader and it's gone, $32,500. It will cost us $409,750 to sell, pay off the lease. So we are using the grader. We do need a grader, and I don't know what else to do. So I am voting yes because it's a solution we have in hand.
Ron?
I'm going to vote no. And the reason is based on what I said earlier in regard to the lack of the legislative process and allow the voters to listen to all the justification, what they need, why they need it, and all the details that go behind that. And in my personal opinion, again, I think we bought a Rolls-Royce grader when a Chevy quality grader would actually do. So I'm going to say no at this point in time.
Rick? You're up. Yes. Article 6? Yes, I would like your vote on Article 6. Is there? Yeah, just. Okay, that's what I'm looking for, okay. No, he votes no. I'm also going to abstain. I agree with Selectman Gray. With the discussion that that abounded here regarding opportunity to discuss with the lawyer what option, at this point, it'd be option C, because Article 7 is option B, should the Article 6 not pass. I'd like to see what they say before I can say yes to vote for this. But again, I'll reiterate, we've been forced into a corner. Nobody disputes we need a grader. I just have a hard time with the way this was done and the caliber of grader that we purchased regarding use on our roads. So we have 2 yeses, 2 nos, 1 abstain, so that would be a vote to not recommend.
Thank you, Sharon. So Article 7, to be acted upon only if Article 6 fails. To see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to sell the grader previously acquired under 7-year lease agreement and to raise and appropriate the sum of $409,750 to pay off the remaining balance under the lease agreement, with such amount to come from the proceeds of such sale. If the sale proceeds are insufficient to cover the payoff amount, the remainder will be raised through general taxation. If Article 6 is approved, this article will be void.
Rick, for you, he read the article, Article number 7. He just read Article 7. This is why it's hard to have Zoom meetings. Yes.
So I think essentially we've already hit this, but is there any more discussion from the board on this one?
No.
Sharon?
The advisory budget committee only received this article today, I think. It might have been last night. So without being able to actually kind of delve into it and discuss it during any kind of selectmen's meeting, we didn't have, or not selectmen's meeting, the advisory budget committee, we can cogently make a statement regarding this.
Correct, I agree.
We don't. Sure.
After reading this, I have not done a market survey. I do not know what a used 2024 CAT 140 all-wheel drive grader with 150 hours on it, what the current auction value is. You know, right now it's $409,750 payoff to the leasing company to get out of the lease. Could, you know, based on last May, some of these used machines were, you know, $480,000 to $500,000. But I can't, I'm not certain what we'd actually see for proceeds for the machine. Goes to an auction site, you know, you're going to pay that 10%, you know, auction, you know, charge, right, to sell the machine. You know, what again, in the clause in here, if the sale proceeds are insufficient to cover the payoff amount, the remainder will be raised through general taxation. So there is a risk here. Again, I don't know what the value of this machine is, but that's something we need to consider. Are we going to recoup the money that we owe?
Any questions from the public? All right, do I have a motion on Article 7?
Make a motion to accept articles, to approve Article 7?
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain pending more information. Put this audio on mute and just put on YouTube and listen to it on YouTube.
You want, yeah, I mean, if he wants to bring it up, either that or I can call him and we can have him on speakerphone, on voice. He can be seeing what's going on and I can put him on voice.
And watch it on YouTube, live stream it. And if you have a question, I guess you can text Sharon.
No, that's not going to
No,
cover
no,
it.
No.
No.
sir.
No, I can put him on, I can call him and put him on speakerphone so he can hear.
I can put you on speaker. Okay. Good?
still sit there. We could still stare at him.
Answer your phone.
I think he's getting it, wherever it is.
Your call has been forwarded.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I'm going to just put the phone
I
down.
have stereo now. I'm gonna cut off Zoom, okay?
Yeah, I was going to say mute your computer.
Okay.
Okay, let me know if you can't hear anything and I'll have it repeated. Okay, where were we? Sorry.
We need the Budget Committee's vote on Article 7.
Okay. Okay, at this point, we will take an advisory budget committee meeting vote on Article 7. Do I have a motion to recommend?
What do I recommend?
Not you, you're just listening. You can recommend. You,
Vote for.
not your vote, we're just making a motion to recommend, and then we'll vote on that on that motion.
So moved.
All right, Ron moved, Joe Dames second. We will roll call vote. Sarah, are you in favor? Okay, so Sarah is abstaining. Joe?
I need to abstain because I don't know what the grader is worth. I don't know what the
Ron?
Abstain because I just got this a couple hours ago. So, I'm abstaining.
Rick?
No.
Sharon, I'm abstaining. So we have 1 no and 4 abstains. So we do not recommend.
That ends the same. Oh, no. You need to vote yes just to allow you to use it.
What was that?
If you vote no on this, that's what we got.
Well, it's just a
You
recommendation.
have to say yes to that, to allow you to do something. If you block this out, say no.
A no vote leaves us with the escape clause in the current lease, which is in there.
All right.
Okay.
Article 8, to see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to enter into a 5-year lease purchase agreement in the amount of $63,000 for the purpose of leasing an outfitted police cruiser and to raise and appropriate $14,350 for the first year's payment for that purpose. This lease agreement contains an escape clause, and the town will own the police cruiser at the end of 5 years. Any discussion from the board on Article 8?
Nope.
Chief was going to, did you have any more information as to whether or not we need a cruiser, or that still, we won't know that for a month until town meeting? Sorry for the long walk.
So we're still waiting. I'm still waiting for applicants. We're almost at a year and a half without a 4th position filled. I've essentially kept the opening, the application period open till the end of this month, and at which point we'll take whatever applicants I do have and start the hiring process or vetting process. Really, I can't guarantee that I'll hire any of them, or if I will hire one. So there's a lot of unknowns for me still.
Are you able to start vetting candidates before the window closes? Like if you had a good candidate now, do you have to wait for that kind of application window to close, or can you move forward if you had somebody? worth looking at?
I can do bits and pieces of it. The biggest thing is holding a physical fitness process usually weeds out a majority of them, so I like to do it all at once because it is a several-hour process.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Anything from the Advisory Budget Committee on this article?
Yes. On this item. Any comments?
Again, I'd just like to make the comment on this article that because of the way the articles are required to be written by the state, the actual total dollar value on this article is $71,750. That's if you take the $14,350 times the 5-year payment. Anyone else?
Any questions or comments from the public?
Just a question, Steve Bartlett. We have 3 vehicles now? We have the truck, the SUV, and the old car? That's what I see riding around.
We have 2 SUVs and a car right now.
So we don't have the pickup anymore?
No.
Okay, I haven't seen that. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Yep, that car was sold probably 2 or so months ago to the town of Effingham Fire Department. Yes.
Yep. All right. Do I have a motion to recommend this article?
Motion to recommend Article number 8.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sharon?
I have a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee to recommend this article.
So moved.
Seconded by Joe. Roll call vote. Sarah DiMartino? Sorry. Yes. Joe? Yes. Ron?
Yes.
Yes. Rick?
Yes.
Yes. Sharon? Yes. 6-0 to recommend. I'm sorry.
It's 5-0, I believe.
I keep thinking she's still on the board, or sitting over here. 5-0, sorry.
Thank you. All right, Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $17,000 for the upgrading of the library entrance door to be ADA compliant. Questions or comments from the board?
Do you want me to say
Absolutely. That would be great.
Okay. Sloan Jarrell. So this is just to, the way the door opens right now, it opens against the ramp. So if you were in a wheelchair coming up the ramp, you would be in peril to try and open the door. You'd either go down the stairs or back down the ramp. So this is to change the direction the doors open and to put a handicap button. And I've applied for a grant, but I won't hear back until April to cut some of this. It's a $10,000 grant if I get it.
Thank you, Sloan. Anything from the Budget Committee?
I just have a question. You say you've applied for a grant. Would that grant cover the entire cost?
No, it's only $10,000.
Only $10,000. Okay, thank you.
Questions or comments from the, oh, are you good, Sharon?
We're good.
Okay. Questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, I will take a motion from this board. Oh, go ahead.
So the library is 2 doors, that's the main doors, and then there's a double door. Is this just changing?
Both doors.
It's changing both doors? Okay.
Anything else? Do I hear a motion from this board on Article 9?
I make a motion to recommend Article number 9.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sharon?
Do I have a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee to recommend Article 9?
So moved.
From Ron, second by Sarah. Roll vote. Sarah? Yes. Joe? Yes. Yes. Ron?
Yes.
Yes. Rick?
Yes.
Yes. Sharon, yes. 5-0 to recommend.
Thank you, Sharon. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,500 as an annual stipend per RSA 3135 for the compensation of the trustee of the trust fund's bookkeeper. Comments from the board? Seeing none. Budget committee?
Rick, do you have any comments?
Just the ones I had before. I don't think you're controlling all of the money that's supposed to. You have funds floating around town that should be in their care and custody, according to the Attorney General's office. So, no, I don't. That's it.
Can you repeat that for me? Oh, thank you. Oh, that's not going to be good. Never mind. Don't repeat that. I'll repeat it. I'm going to paraphrase what he said. He indicated that he has concerns that the trustees of the trust funds are not able or not empowered to manage all of the monies that it should be managing, and that there was an audit by the state. Rick, correct me if I'm wrong. An audit by the state that indicated they should be managing all of it, and they still are not. So he is not in, he has concerns about this article.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment to that? For what they are responsible for right now, Kathy especially does an excellent job at taking care of everything, and I think she deserves this small amount of money for the time and energy that she does put in for what she's already responsible for, whether or not they are taking care of things that we don't know about, I mean, not taking care of things that we're not aware of, but that's my personal opinion.
Because at this time, she doesn't get any stipend, is that correct?
Correct.
So she's basically volunteering to...
Time, money, gasoline,
Yep.
paper, everything.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
Questions or comments from the public?
So the person who's been doing this hasn't been getting paid all along. So in the future then, could we, I guess this is just a suggestion, I don't know if it's legal or anything, could this just be made part of the budget so that she would get paid every year instead of having to raise it?
It would be part of the budget going forward. This is a one-time thing as this article.
Okay, and so then in the future, she would be paid through the regular budget?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Do I have a motion on Article 10?
Motion to recommend Article 10.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Sharon?
Advisory Budget Committee, do we have a motion to recommend Article 10? From Sarah, a second. From Joe. Roll call vote. Sarah, yes. Joe? Ron?
Yes.
Rick?
Abstain.
Abstain. And the reason for abstaining? Your reason for abstaining?
I'll change that, no.
Okay, change your vote to a no. Okay, Sharon, yes. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 to 1 to recommend.
Thank you. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 to be placed in the previously established Highway Heavy Equipment Expendable Trust Fund. Questions or comments from the board?
I guess the one thing I will say is that this is, I mean, the purpose of this is to purchase new equipment, right? This is where we should have been kind of saving money all along towards capital improvements such as purchasing purchasing
Sitting in front of me, I don't know what the
new
hell-
graders and things like that, so.
I had a copy of that sitting in front of me. I
With
don't
the
know
new
what hell I did.
CIP that's coming forward, I think we'll have a better idea as to how much we should be putting into this every year to replace equipment going forward.
It'll be a lot more than that.
Exactly, yeah. It'll be spread out. A wise man suggested that that CIP go out 20 years.
Wonder how that was.
Anything from the Advisory Budget Committee on Article 11?
I just want to reiterate and support what Selectman Gray just said, that when we have the CIP up and fully loaded and operating, hopefully this area will be where we're putting in and putting away money every year in order to anticipate going forward replacement of equipment. I mean, from the minute we buy equipment, we should be thinking about its replacement and starting to plan for it.
Yes, I have a comment as well. My question is, and this is coming from me, so you might be surprised, is this enough? $20,000. Our trucks are very expensive. And so $20,000 is a drop in a bucket on today's market. So I would actually be in favor on the floor in March of increasing that number, because I don't think it's enough.
We can change it tonight, Ron, if you'd like.
What's he say?
I didn't hear that.
Change it right now.
I'll change it right now?
We can. If you can convince somebody on this board to make a motion, we can absolutely increase that number.
These articles, put money aside.
So currently, there's $25,000 in this heavy highway equipment fund, $25,006. Adding this $20,000 would make it $45,006. Having discussed graders and knowing that there are other trucks and pieces of equipment that will be coming up for replacement in the next 5 years or so, I think it might be prudent to take a look at this warrant article more thoroughly.
Yeah. I would suggest doubling it, 40,000.
Yep.
The DPW did give us a list of their equipment, everything from the trucks to the wood chipper to front-end loaders, everything. You know, a new dump truck, you're talking $200,000. A new backhoe's $180,000 to $200,000. And I agree with Ron. The reason we're in the hole on this grader is because money was never set aside years. And we kept saying, no, we'll just keep the old one going. You know, and we didn't put any money into the trust fund for this. And definitely with the price of equipment these days, I mean, we're seeing it. You know, the graders are almost $500,000. A new front end loader's probably $250,000 to $300,000. You know, the stuff wears out, you know. And again, you know, we only have $25,000 in there now, and another 20. You know, that's not even a down payment on some of these vehicles.
This won't even pay for a new wood chipper.
Yeah, there's a couple of new wood chippers. New wood chippers, when we come out to 55K or 54K.
So I actually pulled out the CIP and the draft that we've been working on. Replacement year 2026, as just mentioned, the DPW is looking to replace their 1989 wood chipper. They've requested $90,000 next year to do that. Fire department is looking to sell 2 pieces of equipment and replace them with a mini rescue pumper. Estimated cost that would be offset presumably by sales is $434,000. If I understand, that was put in for next year. So yes, $20,000 might not be enough for things. Granted, the fire department would be not be under the highway heavy equipment ETF. But.
Mr. Bartlett?
I think I'm wrong in this, but didn't we draw down this last year for something at the transfer station? Didn't we buy some heavy, may not be heavy equipment, but didn't we have?
We hit the transfer station ETF.
There's an ETF for the transfer, that's what I said. So this has not been fed, according to what you guys are saying, that that frequently or that much in the last handful of years.
I think last year was 10,000.
I have to look back at the records, but still 20,000 is nothing.
Yeah. So last year, this was fed $10,000, so this is a double.
Again, it would be nice if we could manage these spikes, you know, if we put money away each year, so when it comes time to buy the $200,000 dump truck, front end loader, we're going out with a huge amount of money, right? We already have, you know, even if we have 50%, 80%, you know, set aside, that would be a good start.
The current balance in the highway heavy equipment ETF is $25,006.
All right. After that discussion, is this board in favor of doubling that number?
I can't understand them either.
I'm sorry, Mr. Price, could you speak closer?
Yep. I'm just wondering if the Board of Selectmen is interested in doubling that number for our article discussion.
After the discussion with the grader, I don't want to put another dime in. Unless we raise that number to somewhere around $50,000 or $60,000 or 75.
I'm sorry, Mr. Aruda, can you speak
Yeah,
into
can you speak in the mic?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not in favor of raising this. We just went through an entire exercise on the grader. And now we want to raise the balance of heavy equipment. That $20,000 is not going to cover anything. To make it any worthwhile, you're going to need $75,000 or $100,000 with what we got to buy. So,
Can we use the highway heavy equipment for a greater rental? Is it written so it's purchase, or can it be used to rent?
We'd have to look at.
Because that
the way
might
it was
save us
written.
from having to rearrange Articles 2 and 6 and 7.
I guess we're going to check with the attorney on that.
Yeah.
Which means there'll be nothing left in the, if we use that money
Right.
for rental.
I don't see anybody headed for the microphone, so do I have a motion on Article 11?
I'll make a motion to recommend Article 11 at $20,000.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So they can keep it at 20.
Sharon?
So does the Advisory Budget Committee have a motion to recommend this article at $20,000? Sarah, you're motioning? Yes, I am. Ron is seconding. Roll call vote. Sarah, yes? Joe? Yes. Ron?
Yes.
Yes. Rick? Yes. Sharon, yes. 5-0, recommend.
Thank you, Sharon. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be placed in the previously established transfer station capital projects expendable trust fund.
What was, sorry, go ahead, John.
We turned in this year we just ended just over $70,000 in fees and about $12,000 in recyclables. So your money is well spent at the transfer station.
Where did we land with the backhoe? I think the DPW backhoe was on loan to the transfer station. Are we going to job share it?
We have commandeered it. It's not going anywhere.
So is the DPW going to just steal it back on weekdays and the transfer station gets it?
They need it. If the highway department needs it, they'll just come up and get it.
Okay, because there was some talk of purchasing a new one, but we're not?
No.
Okay.
Not that I know of.
Okay. And then, do you need money for paving the transfer station?
That's going to be something 10 years out.
Okay.
It needs to be paved. It needs to be paved. It hasn't been paved since its construction back in 2002 or 3. And we're losing a lot of the pavement.
All right, so you currently have 50,000 in your ETF. We're looking to add 10. Is that going to get you through the next year?
Yes, we don't have anything that we need to replace other than paving.
Okay.
Anything from the Budget Committee on Article 12?
Comment? On Article 12? Rick? Nope. Okay. Okay.
Anything from the public?
I'm sorry.
Nope. That sounded like you said no, because I can't hear him.
Rick's question is, does this money fold into the capital improvement plan the way Article 11 does?
If Rick can hear me, we just looked at the capital improvement plan for the transfer station, and John just confirmed that they don't need anything replacing in the next year or so, except they need to be doing repaving, and that the 60,000 is sufficient for the next year or so.
So the short answer, Rick, is yes. It will fold into the capital improvement plan, but there's currently no projects on the capital improvement plan for this coming year. The biggest. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Oh, I don't mind, Sherry. So, Sharon, I hate to be a stickler for the rules here, but for an RSA 91A, we all have to be able to hear Rick, and he has to be able to hear everyone here.
I can't hear you.
Per RSA 91A, Rick needs to be able to hear everyone here, and everyone here needs to be able to hear him.
So what do you suggest that I do?
That I don't know. It was voted in under your meeting. I don't have. I'm just pointing out the statute.
If Rick can mute Zoom on his end, that might help.
I don't know that I can get my phone loud enough so that people can hear him is the problem.
Yep.
I could hold it to the microphone.
There you go.
So if anyone has a suggestion, I can't. I can repeat back what he says, but the law says they have to be able to hear his voice specifically. Rick, do you understand what the issue is? Is that because you're on the phone and the computer doesn't have a big enough speaker to it, people in the audience can't hear you and you can't hear them. We could technically be in violation of the RSA. And it looks like Mr. Brooks might be coming to say something, or talking to the videographers to see what the issue might be. No, I know, but they might have another speaker or something to plug in.
Asia, is the Zoom muted on our side? Bottom left-hand corner.
I asked Kate to unplug the microphone because I thought that's what was causing the reverberation when he's talking on the phone. So that's not.
So he needs to mute
Try it
his
again.
microphone. This is muted. Okay. Rick, can you please say something?
Yeah, you hear that?
Ha, yes. That
Can you
works
hear us,
much
though?
better. Can you hear?
That works.
Can you hear?
I can hear you.
Okay. Mr. Brooks, could you say something to see if he can hear you?
Rick, can you hear me?
He's way off. I can't hear him.
He says you're way off, he can't hear you.
Can you hear us in the microphones?
Yeah, true.
Rick, can you hear us in the microphones? That would be a no.
That would be a no. So Rick, when we speak through a microphone, can you hear us? That'd be a big no. All right, so the issue is you can't hear us now.
On candid camera. Yeah, it's way off. I pick up probably every other word.
Okay.
Can you hear us now? Rick, can you hear us?
No.
Are we still muted on here, though? Oh, yeah, unmute that maybe.
Sharon, maybe mute your phone.
Okay, Rick, can you hear us now?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so there's a speaker that's plugged into the computer, so hopefully that solves the issue.
I can hear you.
Okay, and then when you speak, I'm going to put the phone up to the microphone. Speak. Can you say something? Can you say something, please?
Could you say something, please?
Me? Yeah. I'm still here.
I know.
All right.
All right, so this isn't actually working, and I don't know legally that I can allow you to continue to participate this way because we don't have legitimate, we can't hear you, you can't hear us kind of thing. And so you're free to stay on the phone, or on the Zoom, but I'm gonna talk to the selectmen and maybe even Mr. Brooks and find out via the RSA. I may not be able to count your vote.
Are you still on mute, Sharon?
From this point on.
Is your phone still on mute?
Oh, shoot. Rick, so because we're having these issues with you hearing us and us hearing you, I'm not sure that we're compliant with the RSA. And at this point, I am not able to count your vote going forward. I can count all the ones that you've already done, but I can't count your votes going forward, okay?
I'll leave.
Okay,
How's he going to be a select?
all right. He's going, I don't know if he's able to just continue to listen and just can't vote.
Well, there's nothing saying you need to shut it off. He just can't speak to the meeting and he can't vote.
Okay, you're going to sign off? All right, thank you.
I will.
All right. I'll talk to you afterwards. He's gone.
All right. Anything from the public on Article 12? Seeing nothing, do I have a motion from this board to recommend Article 12?
Motion to recommend Article 12 for $10,000.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Sharon?
Yep. I entertain a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee. From Ron, second from Sarah. Sarah, we don't need to do I guess we don't need to do a roll call vote anymore, so all those in favor say aye. Aye. 4 ayes. Not really.
All right. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be placed in the previously established assessing expendable trust fund. Any questions, comments from this board?
Nope.
From the Budget Committee?
Any comments from the Budget Committee?
Just a quick question.
Yep, Ron has a question.
Adam, this is almost like a fixed cost, right? I mean, we really don't have much options here.
We don't. It does tend to go up every 5 years. I think we're up $10,000 from our past.
Right, but I mean, we really can't lower it if we wanted to.
No, I mean, this is essentially...
So it's pretty much
for
a
the
fixed
future.
cost.
Yeah, we don't have a choice.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Anything from the public?
Oh, I'm sorry, I just had one more comment. The assessing ETF has a balance of $121,614 in it. This will add the $25,000, which will make it $146,000. The reval in this year, 2025, will remove almost $110,000 from that. So adding this money will, once we remove the $110,000, will leave about $25,000 in there.
Thank you.
If this is a recurring situation that we really can't vote down, should it be moved into a line item in the first 3 articles so that it's just there and we vote on it as a a town expense as opposed to having it every year be a warrant article? Or does it have to appear as a warrant article?
So the reason it's done this way is because we save a certain number of dollars every year. We need to add this money to an expendable trust fund, and we can't do that from the operating budget. So we're saving $25,000 for 5 years, and then we expend that money out of that fund to do the reval.
I see.
Seeing no one else, do I have a motion from this board on Article 13?
Article to recommend Article 13.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sharon?
Advisory Budget Committee, do I have a motion to recommend Article 13? Sarah recommends, Ron is the second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. 4-0, recommended.
Thank you. Article 15, to see if the town will vote. Oh,
14.
where's 14? Thanks, John.
That's okay.
You're still on it tonight. I wrote on the wrong one, that's why. Article 14, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be placed in the previously established Historical Society Building Improvement Expendable Trust Fund. Anything from the board?
No.
I'll put on my Historical Society Director hat for a minute. They are looking to do a lot of work. They need to have the roof replaced. They need to have windows replaced. Very fortunately, asbestos tests came back negative, so they don't have to worry about that cost. But they do have big plans that they're, going to use this money for. So it's going to a good home.
Anything from the Budget Committee?
The current balance in the Historical Society ETF is $31,093, so this will bring that up to $41,000. I don't know that it's enough to do a roof and windows and everything they need to be done, but it's a start. Or it's moving in the right direction. Anyone else? No? Nope. We're good.
Anything from the public? All right, do I have a motion on Article 14?
I'll make a motion to approve, recommend Article 14.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sharon?
Make a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee. Sarah motions, Joe seconds. All those in favor say aye. Aye. 4-0, recommend.
Thank you. Let's try Article 15 again. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $66,000 to be placed in the previously established Silver Lake Dam Improvement Expendable Trust Fund. To make it clear, this is not quite enough money to do what we need to do, but this article was cut, and we intend to add a little bit more next year and hopefully attack this in 2026. Anything else from the board?
No.
Advisory Budget Committee?
Yeah, there's currently a balance of $12,321 in this expendable trust fund. This would add the 66, bringing it to $78,321. I believe that that's supposed to be enough to do the initial evaluation with a consultant. Is that correct? And then, if I'm remembering correctly, but that is not to fix
No.
the dam.
So the total cost to do the evaluation is $166,000, so we will be a little bit short, what, 80-something thousand dollars short until next year if we can appropriate some more.
Okay.
And that's just to do the full evaluation.
Thank you for that clarification.
Anything else? Anything from the public? Do I have a motion on Article 15?
Make a motion to recommend Article 15.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Sharon?
Advisory Budget Committee, do I have a motion to recommend Article 15? Sarah recommends. Ron, second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. 4-0, aye. To recommend.
Article 16, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to be placed in the previously established groundwater remediation expendable trust fund. Anything from the board? Joy?
This is for the PFAS chemicals that were detected in the well behind the library. We've done a focused site investigation. There's been a secondary site survey sampling the wells of properties around Town Hall. So this, we're going to need to do continued testing, continued sampling, and at this point, 5 of the private wells around the library require PFAS remediation, and the town is responsible for providing whole house water filtration systems and ongoing testing. So Chief Brooks filed for, and Linda put together the paperwork, and we will be receiving $68,000 grant to help pay for this. But this is basically, they're forever chemicals, and this is kind of a lifetime commitment for now. So we're going to need to have the money to continue to test and remediate.
Thank you, Joy. Anything from the Budget Committee?
Anyone? No, we have no comments.
Thank you. Anything from the public?
Gino Fernandez, do we have any idea of the source of the PFAS chemicals and any third parties that might be responsible for them?
In a correspondence with the Department of Environmental Services in New Hampshire, back in May 2022, there's kind of an acknowledgement that the most likely source was the fire department and the AFFF foam that would have been used over the decades. I mean, Teflon, the PFOA chemical was invented in the 40s for World War II on tanks. Then they started using it in firefighting foam for decades and decades and decades. So Chief Brooks has indicated that that foam has not been used by Madison for years, and it was used little. And we don't have records. Sounds like we don't have records of who the manufacturers were of the foam that we did use. There are class action lawsuits all over the country against the manufacturers, 3M, DuPont, of the PFAS chemicals. But without that information, obviously we can't, participate in those class action lawsuits. So to answer your question, that's the likely source.
Are there any other possible people, companies that could have contributed to that in this area? I mean, I'm not pointing fingers anywhere. I'm just asking the question. Or is no way to prove that?
I don't think there's any way to prove definitively where it came from, whether it was foam or other sources.
Or other sources.
Not at this time, anyway.
Okay.
Seeing no one else, do I have a motion from this board on Article 16?
Motion to recommend Article 16.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do I have a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee to recommend, motion by Ron, second by Joe. All those in favor, say aye. 4-0.
Thank
To
you.
recommend.
Article 17, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $997 to be placed in the PEG TV Expendable Trust Fund. This sum to come from the unassigned fund balance, which represents unused franchise fees from 2024 operating budget. Anything from the board?
No.
Budget Committee?
No, we have no comment.
I don't see anybody run into the microphone to keep us here any longer. All right. Do I have a motion from this board on Article 17?
Motion to approve Article 17.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Does the
Sharon?
Advisory Budget Committee have a motion to approve Article 17? Sarah motioned, Joe seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. 4-0. Aye, or recommend.
Thank you. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to establish a master plan expendable trust fund per RSA 3119-A for the purpose of updating the town's master plan and to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be placed in the fund, and further to name the selectmen as agents to expend from this fund. Anything from the board?
So this was originally brought from the planning board as a $100,000 warrant article. A member of the community has stepped up and is taking the lead on doing it internally, I guess, for lack of a better word. So many thanks to that member of the community. With that, we were able to bring down from $100,000 to $25,000. So it will likely need more next year, but because of a volunteer, we were able to bring that way down.
Do we know what the ultimate cost will be?
It depends on, I think, how far they get, what they're able to do internally, and then what level of review it will need legally. Does that sound right, Adam? You're the rep.
It does sound correct. He is doing a wonderful job with it. She has taken a lot of steps, got a lot of people involved, and saving us a lot of money. It's hard to say what it's going to cost going forward. To be honest, $100,000 wasn't the definitive cost. It's really up to what the people in the planning board want to do with the master plan. How comprehensive do you want to get? But what's being done right now is great, and I think people will be pleased, but it will need some review, so we will need a few dollars going forward. I'm not sure that it'll be much more than $25,000, but it really depends on how many people stay involved going forward.
How many people do we have?
They're still forming the CIP, or sorry, not CIP, too many things, steering committee for the master plan. Currently it is 3 members of the planning board and 1 member from the public who's involved in housing.
So, what is the money being used for?
I'm sorry, can you speak into the...
Currently, that money is going to sit in the expendable trust fund and be used for review in the future.
Okay. Last time we did, it didn't cost anything.
It was 20 years ago.
Oh, I can't help it. People didn't pick up the football.
It was a grant for the master plan.
Last one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm looking at the member of the community put it out on some of the Facebook pages. Join us as we envision Madison 2035. How to participate, the planning board. Yeah, I forget. I thought that this said who they're looking to incorporate. But yeah, and it's also on the town website, some information about the group that they're putting together to drive the new master plan. So recommend checking it out.
Anything from the budget committee?
I have a comment, just that this $25,000, same as the corner schoolhouse $25,000, I'm not seeing necessarily a plan for how this is going to get spent, and I don't know, as you indicated, Selectman, what's your last name? Price, sorry. It could be more, it could be less, we don't really know. And so my concern is that we're voting to put money into a fund that we're not really sure how it's going to get spent yet. Or if they're even pursuing grants, as Sloan indicated, the last one was done on a grant. Why not pursue grants? Anyone else?
Budget committee all set? Anything from the public?
Am I remembering correctly that this is a statutory obligation of the town to have a master plan? And it's supposed to be updated every 10 years? Ours is, last one was 2001, 2002, somewhere in there. So we are kind of behind the ball in getting this done. And there was a presentation made, was it to the selectmen or the planning board, from a company that does master plans, which is how the $100,000 price came to be. And again, it depends, as Selectman Price said, that depends how involved it gets or where the selectmen and the planning board feel it needs to go and who you have to hire to do that. I mean, just speaking about from conservation, if we wanted to do a natural resource inventory, that's a very expensive and long procedure. If we don't, then we don't spend that money, but there are many areas that you can go depending on the town's needs. But $25,000 seems like a relatively small amount for the size of the project that it really is, and the statutory obligation that we have to complete that.
I don't know that it has been quite since 2001, but it has been longer than 10 years. And it is statutorily a planning board obligation to update it every 10 years.
Adam, a quick question, please.
Yep.
Has the selectmen or planning board pursued a grant? And if not, are they going to?
That wouldn't be a question for the planning board. It is their responsibility statutorily, but I would assume so, given the level of thought that's gone into it with this recent volunteer. All right. Do I have a motion from this board on Article 18?
Make a motion to recommend Article 18.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Do I have a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee to recommend? Motion from Sarah, second from Joe. All those in favor say aye. Any nays?
Abstain.
Abstain?
Because I was hoping that they would pursue a grant.
Okay.
We don't have the answer.
Did everybody hear that? So we have two yeses and two abstains.
Who was the other abstention, Sharon?
Me, sorry.
Yep.
I thought I might have talked over somebody. And for the same reason, I was hoping there's more clarification on the 25,000, as well as the fact that they have pursued a grant. Or
Right.
are pursuing a grant.
Article 19, the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 for the purpose of forest maintenance, the entire amount to come from the previously established forest maintenance account and no amount to be raised by taxation. Comments from the board? Advisory Budget Committee?
Anyone have a comment on this? State your...
If no money is raised from taxation, why is the Budget Committee voting on this?
That's a good question.
It contains money.
Just the simple fact that the article contains a dollar figure and is spending taxpayer dollars regardless of whether it was raised this, well, actually this is. Regardless, the point is that it contains money and we're spending town dollars and the Budget Committee has a vote on it.
Okay.
Mr. Brooks?
I just have a question. Is there supposed to be a last sentence that says any unexpended amount from this article would return to that fund?
It didn't have that line last year.
I think it should.
Can we look into adding that line?
You can make a motion to add that line.
I'll make, wow.
Should we check with council before we?
DRA or council will,
Yeah.
I want to say that I want to say that we asked for it to be written like that once, but DRA took it out. I'm not 100% sure. But if it can go in there, we can put it in. I mean, you can put it in.
Well, I guess then my motion will state that I make a motion to recommend Article 19 with or without the line, but if the line can be added, so be it.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Budget Committee?
I have a recommendation from the Advisory Budget Committee to, bear with me here, with Article 19, appropriate the sum of $10,000 for the purpose of forest maintenance. The entire amount to come from the previously established forest maintenance account and no amount to be raised by taxation. Sarah, can we vote on this if it doesn't have all the wording?
Question, how about adding the word additional taxation? If it is taxpayers' dollars in this account, if we just add the word additional taxation, it clarifies it.
I think that's why I stopped myself earlier.
It isn't really taxpayer money because it came from the management of the forest, so the logging operations put that money into the account. It's the capital reserve fund that comes from taxpayer money, but not this fund. And this is what we use to do work in the conservation, just running our accounts to manage the forest and the conservation lands. But it was all from logging operations, not taxpayer.
Thank you for that clarification.
But it's logging operations on taxpayer land, correct?
Well, yes.
It's town land.
Well, some of it is, and some of it's conservation land. Some of it's that this is a question I've wanted to get resolved for a while, because some of the lands are town forests and some of them are conservation lands, and we've never really made a discrepancy as to which is which, and that really needs to be clarified down the road. But it's, at the moment, we all consider them to be the same interchangeable conservation lands and town forests. So, but we've always had that money from all those lands in the conservation fund.
Right.
None of it's ever gone into any of the town funds.
Right, and while none of this money in the forest maintenance account has been raised through taxation,
Correct.
it is money that's accrued and a revenue due to taxpayer land forest. Mr. Brooks is shaking his head in the back, yes.
But a lot of the land was given to the town. They didn't buy it initially, so it was given to conservation.
Right.
So is it conservation land, or is, this really probably needs to be resolved.
Okay.
I mean, it sounds like it's all still town land, regardless of whether it's town forest or conservation land. It still belongs to the town of Madison.
I'm not sure. But it's always been treated as if it belonged to the town.
Okay.
The simple idea behind the fund is that the land that the Conservation Commission is responsible for maintains itself. So the revenue from a timbering operation or whatever goes into this fund rather than the town's general fund, and we pull it out in these instances to execute the forest management plan that's been developed with a professional forester. Tim Nolan advises conservation. It's his plan, and this is what the cost to execute his plan for a year is funded by this amount.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, so we're back to our motion. However, I just have a clarification question. Adam, you were talking about as there's an additional line that should be here.
That line wasn't there last year. We were going to speak with DRA about whether that line can be in there, and if it can be in, it will be added. My motion was to recommend this article with or without that line, but if we can have that line, it will be there. And that is how the board voted.
Okay, thank you. So I will follow suit. Do I have a motion to approve this with or without the additional line? Okay, Sarah moved, Ron second. All those in favor? Aye. All 4 ayes.
Thank you. Article 20, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 for the purpose of land acquisition and conservation purposes, with said funds to come from the Capital Reserve Fund for land acquisition and conservation purposes. Anything from the board on Article 20? Budget Committee?
Anyone have any questions? No? Any comments? No? Nope, we're good.
Anything from the public?
Just to let you know that this is to pay for the legal expenses involved in the acquisition of the Chain of Ponds easement. So that's why we asked for this. We don't know exactly what it's going to be, but it shouldn't be more than $5,000.
And you currently have a balance of $66,000 in that account?
Yes.
Thank you. I have a motion from the board on Article 20.
Make a motion to recommend Article 20.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Sharon?
Do I have a motion from the Advisory Budget Committee? Sarah motioning. Do I have a second? Joe Dame seconds. All those in favor say aye. Wait, are you, okay. 3 ayes, 1 nay.
I've been doing that. Let me just explain it, just
Yeah.
briefly. I've always voted against spending taxpayer money for this very worthwhile project. It should come from private funds and grants. So I haven't changed my position over the years. So it's a good project, but not taxpayer dollars. Thank you.
Article 21, see if the town will vote to establish a conservation scholarship and educational expendable trust fund per RSA 3119-A for the purpose of offering conservation-related scholarships and educational opportunities, and to raise and appropriate $500 for this purpose, and further to name the Conservation Commission as agents to expend from this fund. Anything from the board? Budget Committee?
Do you have anything? Do you have any comment? Okay. My only comment was I was hoping that there was some other way to do this as opposed to using taxpayer money in order to sponsor this. I don't know if that $500 could come from the forest maintenance account. I think we've talked about this before, but
We tried that, and the lawyer said we can't do it. So this year, when we asked the school if they had any students that they thought would like to go to Tin Mountain, and we didn't make any headroads there. So what we did was take the money and have for the recreational program, we hired Green Mountain Conservation, who came and did programs for the rec department that we thought was a good idea because it educated several students instead of one student, gave a lot of children an opportunity to experience some conservation activities. And we funded that from our gift fund, but that pretty much wiped out our gift fund. So initially, I think we thought we could do this out of forest maintenance, and then found out that we couldn't. So this would be the only option, is if we were going to do it, we'd have to raise the money from taxation, which is unfortunate because we have a lot of money in the account.
how was the money in your gift fund originally raised?
Gifted. I mean, people gave contributions, or we had one young man, I think it was for his bar mitzvah, gave us the money to do into our gift fund for conservation purposes, and there have been just people have gifted us money over the years. It hasn't happened much recently. We had a gentleman passed away and lived on Silver Lake, and one of the options in his obituary was to gift to the Madison Conservation Commission, and we received some money from there. But we don't have a big, I think we only have $100-something left in our gift account.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds like somebody's trying to get a hold of you, Marcia.
Your phone's going. Okay, so we're on that. Did they already vote?
We have not yet.
Okay.
All right. Do I have a motion from this board on Article 21?
I'll make a motion to recommend Article 21.
A second.
I'm
Oh.
sorry. I have a, if folks donate, can donations be put in this expendable trust fund?
I don't see why not.
Would that go into their gift account?
Reference that. I'm not 100% sure.
We'll have to double check. There's a reference in the RSA, but Linda isn't sure exactly what it says.
But yes, I vote yes.
All right, so motion's been made by John, seconded by me. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sharon?
Advisory Budget Committee, Sarah's already got her hand up. Sarah motions, Ron seconding. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any nays? Nay. Well, I'm sorry, I take that back. I'm going to aye, but I'd like to see this, maybe work with you to see this in the future, that we're not doing a $500 taxpayer thing every year. Okay. So 4 yays, sorry.
Thank you. Article 22, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to hire a certified engineering firm to perform a watershed management study and provide recommendations to protect the Silver Lake watershed, and to authorize for that purpose the issuance of bonds or notes not to exceed $100,000 in compliance with the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33-1. Either I'm blind. I don't know what it says either, but we're going to keep rolling. To authorize the selectmen to apply for, obtain, and accept federal, state, or other aid, if any, which may be available for said project. To authorize the selectmen to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver said bonds and notes, and to determine the rate of interest thereon, and the maturity and other terms thereof, and to authorize the selectmen to take any other action or to pass any other vote relative thereto. Further, to authorize the selectmen to fully offset said appropriation by participating in the New Hampshire Clean Water State Revolving Fund. It is anticipated that there will be $100,000 in principal loan forgiveness under that fund. Further, to authorize the acceptance of a donation from the Silver Lake Association of Madison to pay the full amount of interest on the loan. 3/5 ballot vote required. Anything from the board?
I guess I'll just say thank you to SLAM for this initiative. Thank you for protecting our watershed and doing this study, and for getting it pretty much fully funded through it. So thank you.
Anything from the Budget Committee?
I just have a question. Maybe Linda can answer this. I know we've gone around and back and forth a bit about this particular article and the mechanics of it, as opposed to the intent of it is no, I don't think anybody has any problem with. The mechanics of it are something that I'm a little bit leery of. But this now says that it authorizes the selectmen to apply for and obtain the grant. Is that how this is now going to work? It's not SLAM applying for the grant. It's now going to be that the selectmen will do it maybe in SLAM's name, or I just want, this looks different than the article we had reviewed previously.
Yeah, I'm Dave Scarborough with SLAM, and this has been, you lawyers are paid by the hour, right? This is not, as we've originally put it forward, and it's been changed around, and I don't know all the reasons why, but technically speaking, it's not going to be an expendable trust fund. It doesn't need to, and fortunately, our town administrator, who knows much more than we do about this, weighed in on it. There's a much simpler way of doing it, because the money is going to basically transfer, in effect, through us from the Clean Water State Revolving Fund through us to the engineering company. We don't have to fund this technically, but apparently they have to write it this way because of RSAs.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, but does that answer my question? That is SLAM is still writing the grant request?
No, I'm sorry.
Now
I didn't
the
answer
town
your
will.
question. The town has to obligate itself. A municipality has to. A nonprofit cannot borrow money, in effect, from the Clean Water State Revolving Fund.
Okay.
So SLAM teed this up, but it's always been something that the town was going to be obligated to, in effect.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else? Nope.
Anything from the public?
Mike Brooks, I personally, not as a town employee or anything, I gave Mr. Scarborough my word that I would reiterate what I said at the public hearing, which this is a no-brainer. It's the easiest $100,000 we don't have to spend. And to get a full-blown analysis of our major environmental resource and the watershed that feeds into it, it's just the easiest vote we'll have at town meeting.
All right. Do I have a motion from this board on Article
22? To recommend Article 22.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sharon?
Advisory Budget Committee, Sarah makes a motion for approving Article 22. Ron Force seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Tonight, correct?
4-0, aye.
This is money. These.
Oh, yeah, 26. Like 23, 24, 25.
I'm getting there. I just wanted clarification that we weren't hitting 23, 24, and 25 tonight because there's no money involved. So that being said, we are going to skip to Article 26, and the rest of the articles are charity articles, yes? So in sticking with what we do at town meeting, if this board, I mean, I guess the budget committee can make their own decision, but if this board is okay with it, I'd like to vote on all of these charity articles at once.
Yep.
The total is $32,000 for Articles 26 through 32.
I will make a motion to recommend the group of articles for total.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We didn't allow for questions from the public on that one, so I guess I will allow that right now. All right, Budget Committee, it's all yours.
I did have a comment about these. I think at some point it behooves the town to set a budget for charitable contributions, because at this particular moment, we continue to, every year, we get asked for more and more. And while I think these are, don't get me wrong, these are awesome charities. I think they do a lot of great work. But I think at some point, we only have so much, so to speak, in the coffers, and we should vote on what that upper maximum number will be, and then work with the charities to stay within that budget if we can.
I have a quick comment, just to let you know the process. Linda and I worked on this for the ABC. These charities are vetted, right? They have to apply for funding. They have to get at least 25 Town of Madison registered voters to sign a petition. And we look at their financials and everything. We do vet them. I know most of these because I'm on the board of 2 food pantries. You know, my wife and I work in Madison and in Provisions. They're all very worthy organizations. There's a new one this year, the Way Station. They support the homeless in our area. We actually have people living in cars in Madison. So these are, again, it's not a lot of money, but this money goes directly back to our community. One of the big programs is Meals on Wheels, that type of thing. TRICAP does a lot of work with Madison residents, everything from low-income fuel assistance. They run the Tamworth Dental Center and everything. But we do vet these. Linda and I go through, and we do look at the applications, and that's how they get on the warrant. Okay.
And just one final comment before we vote on this. Just so that you know, according to the 2023 census in the state of New Hampshire, 5.6% of Madison's population lives below the poverty line. So these charities do help those people in need. Do I have a motion to approve Articles 26 through 32 from Sarah, second by Ron? All those in favor say aye. Aye. 4-0.
All right, thank you, Sharon. Two pieces of business before we let you go home, John.
Okay.
I don't know what he's.
Article 22 requires a 3/5 ballot vote, and as George had mentioned, he might like to give the people of town some time to vote on that.
You want to move it?
Would this board be inclined to move Article 22 up in the warrant to allow for that vote?
Get a number where you want to put it?
I mean, does it really matter?
First,
Yeah, if we
If
could.
it really was a bond, it would have to go first.
I was gonna say, I think you
Just
guys-
move it to Article 5. Joy?
You're asking.
Moving
to-
Article 22 up to above Article 5. It's just a renumbering and a reordering so that Article 22 has time for the ballot vote to take place.
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay.
And then there was another one, maybe it was the ETFs. Do we want to move those up closer to Article 6 and 7?
Which was,
Which one?
The, like the highway heavy equipment ETF and the transportation ETF, just move them closer to Article 6 and 7?
move the highway heavy equipment ETF up to Article 8.
Were you talking too about moving these up, the greater above Article?
I think that's what she's trying to avoid, is if we move the highway heavy equipment ETF to Article 8, then we can vote on that right after we vote on these and put it in
that
there.
instead of the operating budget?
Yeah, as long as we can rent out of that ETF.
Gotcha. Okay, and if we can't rent out of the ETF?
We can move it either way, that way it doesn't get confusing. Just move it to Article 8 regardless, and then hopefully we'll have that answer before town meeting.
And then.
Does that make sense?
We can rearrange this at town meeting too.
Yeah.
I mean you guys, sorry.
You do all the legwork, Linda. Haven't eaten dinner yet, Joy.
I brought granola bars. Yeah, just to George's point, just trying to make sure that, not the important ones, they're all important, but just make sure certain ones are.
Right, and you still have the ability to rearrange it at town meeting.
Yes, true, yep. Okay.
All right, that being said, I also need a motion from this board to sign the warrant out of session, once Linda has it.
Can I have the floor for a minute?
Sure.
I'm wondering, have you just had any discussion about the possibility of moving Article 25?
Which one is 25?
25.
Which one is it?
It's about no town employee can be selectman. I think that's going to have some lengthy discussion, and maybe that might be better served if it was moved up.
I think Article 22 is going to have some lengthy discussion.
Just a thought.
I mean, Article 6 and 7 will have lengthy discussion. I think there's a number of articles on here that might. But if this board,
I don't want to move it. I don't.
I'm okay where it's at. I think regardless, we're going to be here all day. All right, that being said, I need a motion from this board to sign the warrant out of session once Linda has it finalized.
I make a motion to sign out of session.
Second.
Motion by Joy, second by John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Huh? I know. Go, go, go. We gotta get different chairs.
We get better.
We'll get there. We'll get there, I promise.